Alright, we're gonna get right to Bad Empanada. So in case any of you guys don't know, Bad Empanada's a fucking idiot. He's the most bitter, deranged piece of shit that, circulates our sphere. And this is what's going on. So Bad Empanada, he's covering me now. You could see the bitterness and the frothing at the mouth. Because Bad Empanada, you don't have this Bad Empanada. You don't come close to me, Bad Empanada. You gotta know your place, Bad Empanada. Beta boy Empanada. You understand? Beta boy Empanada? Because that's what you are. You've outlived your significance. You've surpassed your significance as an internet content creator. Ain't nobody give a shit about you, Beta Empanada. Nobody give a shit about you, Beta Empanada. You know, I'm already about to surpass you in subscribers. Your videos are dog shit. Your video on the go to genocide was dog shit. Bullshit was debunked. And you're about to get debunked. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about anything, Beta Empanada. You don't know a goddamn fucking thing you're talking about. Beta Empanada he wants to be the hipster of the hipsters. So he acts like he's above everyone. Every content creator is stupid except him. He's the smart guy that you should trust because he's the only one living in reality. Everyone else is delusional. And Beta Empanada is the one who's level-headed and actually grounded in reality. So he's against Breadtube, but he's also against Caleb Maupin. And he's also against the gray zone because he is just so above it all that he is the one. He's the Messiah, right? He's too much of a beta to own up to any position, so he just dwells in a fucking eternally ironic position because he can't fucking fathom the idea that you literally live on the fucking internet. You don't live in the real world, Beta Empanada. You're a fucking internet figure, and you can't own up to that fact, so you just act like you're this ironic guy who just makes fun of everything, and nothing can be taken seriously. Yeah, we get it, Beta Empanada, but guess what? You're stuck here with us. You're not better than anyone. You're not better than anyone, Beta Empanada. You hide behind irony because you got nothing of substance to offer anyone about anything, you fucking dumb fuck. You're a dumb fuck with nothing to offer to anyone except this idea that, no one knows what they're talking about except me. I'm the only reasonable one who knows what they're talking about. Everyone else is just ridiculous. Shut the fuck up, Beta boy Empanada. So let's see what Beta Empanada had to say about me.
Ever, where he talks about how the US wasn't imperialist, it was just a normal everyday republic, and then British agents formed the deep state and forced it to be imperialist.
Yeah, that's not what I said. What I actually was trying to say was that it was not in the nature of the American Republic to take on the level of post-war U.S. hegemony that it did. In order to do that, it had to inherit the legacy of the British Empire. It had to, in a way, forget and repress its own founding, principle or founding ideal, whatever you want to call that, of the American Republic. That's all I was trying to say. I didn't say that, it was just a normal... I don't even know what that means, a normal republic. I was just trying to say that what we know of as the American Empire, which comes after the World War II, did FDR represent a threat to the British? Well, FDR would give speeches, like, for example, saying that America will never, ever, ever again, and this is what he said after World War II, go to war for the British Empire. Yeah, FDR was a threat to them, dude. There was so much tension between FDR and Churchill, and... especially in regards to the Soviet Union. FDR was he had a very kind of friendly relation to the Soviet Union, and he foresaw a future of friendly cooperation with the Soviet Union, whereas Churchill was extremely anti-Soviet. Manifest Destiny and the Spanish-American War show how wrong you are. I didn't say... Nowhere in this video did I deny that the United States was developing its own unique form of imperialism, especially after the 20th century, in the late 19th century and 20th century. I never denied that. But what I was talking about was what's called the American Empire, which was referring to the post-war American, Bretton Woods system.
Deep state. Using the word deep state is fucking hilarious. Accentuate the contradiction between...
Why is the word deep state funny? Because all the word deep state is referring to is the power of the state that's beyond its official and formal reality. that there is a fucking deep state, dude. If you don't fucking understand that, you're fucking stupid. If you think the CIA is an organization that acts only within the capacity of the formal laws and rules is overtly and explicitly established by the American state, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then CIA is just one example. We're talking about informal networks. We're talking about NGOs. We're talking about entrenched business interests. We're talking about the military-industrial complex. We're talking about all of these institutions. We're talking about so many different things. If is Bad Empanada saying that there's no deep state? I think he's trying to say that the American state is pretty much just what you see on the surface. Like, there's no deep state. It's just like when you see Biden on TV, I guess that's just the American state. It's just when Biden's on TV. That's what this fucking idiot who pretending to be a fucking Marxist but doesn't know the fucking, doesn't even know his head from his own fucking ass is trying to say. He's trying to basically say that everything is just American liberal democracy, and that's it.
Who calls the USA the destruction of the republic?
So let me get this straight as far as dipshit, dumb fuck, stupid bitch, Beta Empanada is concerned. First, he tells me that there's no deep state and that there's only the overt state. By his own qualifications, he has to accept it's a republic. The American state is formally a republic, and the Constitution establishes this as a republic from the very beginning. If you're going to say there's no deep state and there's only a surface state, you're the one. You should be doubling down on this point that I'm stating, that there's an American republic.
Oh, no. We must uphold the U.S. state. We must continue the U.S. state. It's so important. You can't destroy the republic. What is this? Who is he? This guy.
This is like such a truism for Marxists from the very beginning. Marxists never envisioned the destruction of the American Republic as a whole. They envisioned a destruction maybe of the imperialist state machinery, the deep state. I guess we can't acknowledge there's a deep state, and things like that. But as far as the Constitution is concerned and the Republic is concerned, the reason why Marxism-Leninism is associated with like the violent overthrow of and complete annihilation of states and building new states from scratch is because oftentimes the states that they were overthrowing were not democratic republics, but were states that were leftovers of the ancient regime. And effectively states that were not modern states. But when Marx and Engels looked at the United States, well, the United States is already a democratic republic. Let's consult Engels' principles of communism. Engels' principles of communism. So I really need you guys to understand what a fucking dumb, stupid fuck Bad Empanada is. I need you to understand, like, how he's trying to paint me as a ridiculous guy because I'm talking about the Republic and all this kind of stuff. Well, this is point 25 of Engels' Principles of Communism. What is the attitude of the communists to other political parties of our times? In America, where a democratic constitution has already been established, the communists must make common cause with the party which will turn this constitution against the bourgeoisie and use it in the interests of the proletariat. That is, the agrarian national reformers. It's funny how my position is literally identical to Engels's. In 2021, my position is literally just identical to this. All of this shit that they're smearing against us for being American patriot, socialist patriots, you go back and read the Principles of Communism, and he literally, and we talk about land reform and the necessity of building a base in rural America and the American peasantry or whatever. It's like, he's literally talking about this. Engels is literally talking about this. And remember, a democratic constitution has already been established. Communists should make cause with a party that'll turn it against the bourgeoisie. That's literally Ron Paul Maoism that logo talks about. Jen Dong said Marx and Engels were wrong about America. That's fine, but don't call us the revisionists then. Don't call us the revisionists for maintaining continuity with the views of Marx and Engels on this matter.
This guy is a Marxist. We must protect the U.S. Republic. We must uphold the Republic. I don't want to abolish the state.
Yeah, I'm a Marxist and I have receipts, you fucking dipshit. I actually have receipts, and yeah, his soy voice is cracking. I have receipts straight out of the words of Marx and Engels themselves, and I also have receipts from the experience of the Popular Front in the 1930s, where there was a threat of fascism, and communists were tasked with the duty of protecting the Republic against fascism. Believe it or not.
I don't want a revolution. I don't want to replace the state with a new one. I want to defend the republic.
Yeah, you don't understand what revolution or anything even means. You guys, a revolution isn't what happens when people just decide they want to abolish the state. A revolution literally happens when, for example, the state itself imminently loses legitimacy or collapse. But the state's continuity, historical continuity, that remains. Even amidst the revolution, that continuity remains. That's when the Bolsheviks took power. Even the Tsarist state, which was never legitimated in a modern way whatsoever, they just had to remain. There had to be continuity between the laws of the Tsarist state and the Bolshevik state. Now, later on, they would amend and eliminate them. But they did this through a system of laws that was created by Soviet democracy. There was no precedent for any democratic system within the Russian Empire at all. All the laws were based on the sovereignty of the Tsar. He was the sovereign, right? So there's no way to internally use the state machinery after you seized power to change anything. You had to implement a new system because there was no modern state to speak of. Lead to the destruction of the republic.
Then why must it lead to the destruction of the republic? Are you like a fucking Republican senator as Palpatine is forming the empire? What is going on here?
Because the republic is bad.
No, Bad Empanada, you're just a fucking idiot. You're literally just a dumb fuck. And you sit in Australia and comment on this shit looking like a dumb fucking shit.
I don't think you've noticed that.
More morale. And this disgusting fuck can't even help but pick his nose. You can tell this guy doesn't shower, and you can tell this is a smelly guy who just picks his nose and picks his ass all day. Doesn't even wash his hands. You could tell his fucking mouse and keyboard is sticky as fuck, and he's just this fucking nasty guy. Morality that means nothing to me.
More morality that means nothing to me. I guarantee you this guy has an idea of what good and bad is, and he's just saying, that's morality, it means nothing to me.
Yeah, but you can't conflate your sense of good and bad with some kind of prescriptive form that has to be imposed on reality fanatically, you dumb fuck. Our sense of good and bad is always going to be more fundamental and more dense than the form of our morality. Morality, if you understand Marxism, is a form of the estrangement of our more fundamental sense of good and bad. It's a form of abstraction and estrangement from that, actually. He has an idealist view of morality. Our sense of good and bad does not premise. The form we contemplate of our sense of good and bad cannot be taken as the premise of material reality. Even if material reality is imminently moral, you can't just say the republic is bad when you're describing it because it has a material reality. Because the republic is bad. What does that actually mean materially and practically? Nothing. It means we should abolish it. And that's literally what defines the aesthetic of these fucking anarcho-leftists, is that they have this kind of apocalyptic, moralistic view of reality, according to which if something's bad, we abolish it. If something's good, we preserve it or we implement it, right? This is basically their theory of praxis, their aesthetic as a whole, and their view of morality, which is wholly idealistic, wholly subjectivistic, and wholly anti-Marxist.
An empire built on imperialism, slavery, and genocide is me being
more. The republic was founded on the basis of seceding from the empire.
I mean, I went over this already earlier in the stream, but the US was not founded on the basis of seceding from the empire. It was founded...
Yes, it was, you dumb fuck. It's literally in the Declaration of Independence. You are literally a stupid fuck.
On the basis of settlers wanting to have their own empire. The British,
No, it wasn't. He's taking the words of like George Washington that he quotes in the comment section out of context, when empire just meant a big polity back then. But as far as the British Empire is concerned, yeah, it was founded on the basis of seceding from it and founding a state of the American people by, of, and for them.
Fear that the British Empire would potentially abolish slavery. The British Empire actively was trying to limit Western settlement, Western encroachment onto...
Yeah, he's repeating the talking points of the fraudulent 1619 project, which is entirely unfucking true. If the British intended on abolishing slavery, why is it that it was the British system that prolonged the existence of slavery in the United States, and that when the time came that the North was sufficiently strong enough to lead an effort against slavery, it was the British Empire which backed the Confederacy explicitly. Why was it that the Confederacy was aligned with Britain then, you dumb fuck? You literally are trying to fucking rewrite history.
To Indian lands. We're not talking about the end of an empire. We're talking about the creation of a new empire that was a radicalization of the empire that was.
No, it wasn't, you dumbass. North America was just a complete colony of foreign European powers. The American Republic was meant to be a republic, not an empire, but a republic. When Washington used the word empire, he's just referring to a big polity, a big sovereign state.
And he's going to go here and be like, no, the U.S. wasn't an empire. The U.S.
It wasn't a fucking empire, dumbass.
You know, split from the empire. So it can't be an empire, even though it literally, like, the founding...
Literally. Shut the fuck up, bitch.
Fathers of the USA explicitly outlined the fact, we're open with the fact, nice burp, like they were open with the fact that, you know, we're making an empire here. We want a coast-to-coast empire where white people can have tons of land. Who cares?
Yeah, they didn't say that at all. They never even said that whatsoever. You're just making that shit up. We want an empire for white people. Yeah, nice fucking 1619 woke revisionism of history, dumbass. The founding fathers never said that shit. Okay, maybe it's implied, because obviously at that time in history, there was no view of the equality of all races and whatever. There wasn't even a view of equality between men and women, you know? Like, it's so stupid. These people are so fucking stupid, you know? As far as the times were concerned, it was a democratic republic. It had ambitions to expand seaboard to seaboard because it was America. It was the United States of America. Its expansionism was based on the fact that these territories were already being contested by all the colonial powers. They wanted to take territory contested by colonial powers and make them the territory of a democratic republic and not a colony, you dumb fuck. These were already the territories of European colonies. Like, these people complain that Britain was going to abolish slavery when all they did was ban the trade of slavery with their big fucking navy, which is like the same thing we put into the Constitution, that the importation of slavery would be banned after 1806. Yeah, that's what this dumb fuck doesn't understand. If he's right, why did we put it in the Constitution that the importation of slavery is going to be banned in 1806? That doesn't mean slavery is going to be abolished, dumbass.
It's about the fact that people are already living there, you know, where white people can take land. Every individual white family can have a ton of land.
Wait, it wasn't just that people were living there, that these were fucking colonies of European powers. Or they were going to become the colonies of European powers. You don't seem to fucking understand. The Europeans were already there, dumbass. Now, as far as the settlement of the territories are concerned, that was going to follow from the United States annexation of these territories, because the United States government was trying to build a country, not a colony, not an empire, but a country. Britain tried to maneuver its way into the annexations in the Texas Republic and the Mexican Southwest California. This guy's making it seem like, oh, we left Britain and then we became the evil guys who were just preying on all of this empty territory that the European empires had no designs on and weren't vying for.
Been about 2 or 3 decades after the Declaration of Independence and after the end of the Revolutionary War, rather, through the Monroe Doctrine. So, like, it wasn't an empire. It was forced to become an empire by the British, is what he's about to say.
The Monroe Doctrine was a doctrine against European colonization and puppet monarchies, dumbass. The Monroe Doctrine wasn't, oh, we're going to imperialize everything. It was saying, a warning to the European powers, we're not going to tolerate your colonization of the Western Hemisphere. You don't even know fucking history, dude. Did they not teach you about it in Australia? Or are you just trying to fucking send woke virtue signal points to the fucking Twitter lefties? According to Bad Empanada, the US was always an empire because they wanted to stop Europeans from colonizing the Americas. And they wanted to combat the influence of colonialism in the Americas. What a horrible, what a horrible fucking crime. This is like when anarchists say that the Soviet Union wasn't communist because it had a state. How dare they have a state and defend themselves against foreign aggression? That makes them just as bad as the foreigners trying to engage in aggression against them, apparently.
The British intelligence. James Bond has infiltrated the US government and forced the US government to become imperial.
This is the most, like, unashamed, just naked and open ignorance I've ever fucking seen. James Bond? Does this guy not know the significance of British intelligence? First it was Star Wars, now it's James Bond. I'm beginning to think that this guy has gotten his entire education from popular media. Anyone who studied the history of geopolitics in the early 20th century and throughout knows the importance of British intelligence in literally defining the course of history. Are you stupid, dude? You didn't know about the ways in which British intelligence literally infiltrated like almost every fucking government of Europe, including Germany? You don't know about things like that? And the USSR? You don't know that British intelligence is what fucking like pioneered that shit? I can't fucking even believe this shit. Why are you bringing up James Bond? Yeah, I guess the reason they made James Bond is probably inspired by that legacy. But it comes from somewhere, dumbass. You just don't know anything about history, you dumb fuck. And you just fucking, flaunt this ignorance like it reflects well on you and badly on me.
Incredible. Imagine watching this and thinking that you're watching someone say something that makes sense. This is like the dangest vosh.
Imagine watching this guy, and I bet his audience is just a bunch of bitter ass bitch people too. Like, does anyone just get satisfaction just watching this guy and just always be seething, butthurt, bitter people who are just unhappy, bitter people at the world? Just unhappy, bitter people who have no sense of fun or happiness.
Really? Because I could have sworn there was stealing of Mexico, the constant supporting of endless wars to steal territory that were highly supported by the American people. Even if they weren't supported by the American people, it's still a reality.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
But they were supported by the American people because the people leading the American people, whereas Lenin understood, was a labor aristocracy, and were
What? The people leading the American people were a labor aristocracy?
Petty
What is going on here? What the fuck?
bourgeois elements aligned to you. Yeah, during the era of American imperialism, you did have a labor aristocracy that represented the top segments of the American working class and the American people that were leading them along and, you know, throwing down the breadcrumbs. So I guess Bitter Lpanada denies the labor aristocracy. U.S. imperialism that were leading them. And Lenin didn't just say that you should concede the battlefield to those elements.
What? What the fuck is this? Holy shit. What is going on here? This is incredible.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
But they were supported by the American people because the people leading the American people, whereas Lenin understood, was a labor aristocracy and were petty bourgeois elements aligned to U.S. imperialism that were leading them. And Lenin didn't...
That literally means nothing. You cannot respond to it. It doesn't mean anything. So...
What do you fucking mean it doesn't mean anything, you dumb fuck? If the American people are being led by a labor aristocracy, as Lenin understood, that doesn't mean that the American people couldn't have been led by any other force. Lenin said working class partisans should lead the American people, right? Class-conscious revolutionaries should lead the American working class. You don't concede the battlefield to the labor aristocracy and the petty bourgeois elements. And look at fucking this dumb bitch. What? That's meaningless. That's meaningless. Just like how Hegel is completely meaningless too, right? You disgusting dumb fuck. This guy calls himself a Marxist and calls Hegel meaningless, literally the thing that gave rise to Marxism. I would love to have a debate with Bad Empanada, and I just want to ask Bad Empanada, hey, Bad Empanada, where did Marxism come from? Like, did Marx just wake up one day and just decide to, like, be, like, normal like you? You're just a normal guy, and you're just bitter at the world for not being as normal and cool as you are, right? Is that what you think, you fucking loser?
So he's saying, like, the American people were a labor aristocracy, okay? And they
No, I wasn't. I was saying they were being led by one, you dumb fuck. Do you not fucking speak English? You come from Australia, so English is your first language. Did I say the American people were a labor aristocracy, or did I say they were being led by one? You dumb, stupid fuck.
A petty bourgeois element aligned to U.S. imperialism that was leading them. And he's talking about, like the U.S., you know, War of Independence here, right? So
no, I'm not. I'm talking about the era of U.S. imperialism.
What the fuck does that mean? Petty bourgeois elements aligned to U.S. imperialism.
And we're petty bourgeois. Yeah, have you read Imperialism, the Highest Stage, you dumbass? Elements aligned to U.S. imperialism that were leading them.
So how is it possible that petty bourgeois elements were aligned to U.S. imperialism when, like, before the U.S. even existed, apparently, yet the U.S. is a republic that has nothing to do with imperialism, and it was actually a break from imperialism? Trying to understand...
Because there was an era of American imperialism in the early 20th century. Everyone fucking understands that. That's what I thought Jason was talking about. And that's what I was fucking responding to. If you got the fucking stick out of your fucking ass, you'd see that's very clear. American imperialism did exist. in the 20th century. Now, the American Empire was founded after the post-war period. But yeah, there was an era of American imperialism like the rest of Europe, which was hotly contested and a source of such huge controversy and scandal within America. He is so reflexively biased against you, just like us, for I know. But you gotta understand, this guy's a stick in his ass 24/7. And look, this is the guy who just watches people grow and he just becomes bitter. He's like, everyone's wrong and I'm right. Everyone's wrong and I'm right. I wish everyone was just like me. He's like Squidward Tentacles. You know, he's got the Squidward Tentacles mentality where he's just got this idea, everyone's a moron but him. You know, and he just plays the clarinet by himself. He just plays that clarinet all by himself and cries that no one will understand him. Okay, so this is going to be the part 2, the final destruction of Bitter Lpanada, the stupid bitch. This all began with this video that he uploaded. Guys, guys, please hold your horses. I've been exposed as a fake. I'm just a guy who doesn't understand Lenin. I've never read Lenin in my life, apparently. Bad Empanada has made me look so stupid, guys. He just made me look so stupid. It's so embarrassing, guys, look. So I'm gonna do it in his bitter bitch Empanada voice. Debate infrared versus Lenin on imperialism. It's not like I literally responded to this argument like a trillion times before. So let's see the embarrassing mistake I made. And then I'm gonna break down and dissect the meme to just bask in the exposure and humiliation of infrared by Bitter Lpanada. This is the guy who understands Lenin. He knows what he's talking about, and it's so simple. It's as plain as day as this.
Genghis Khan was not an imperialist. The Roman Empire was not fucking imperialist. That's not what the fucking word actually means. We leftists get the word imperialism from Lenin. Then I don't care about your concept of imperialism. As a Marxist-Leninist, we have our own concept of imperialism we get from Lenin.
Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, by Vladimir Lenin, page 75. Colonial politics and imperialism existed even before the latest stage of capitalism, and even before capitalism. Rome, founded on slavery, carried out a colonial policy and was imperialistic.
Oh my god, guys, hold on. You see it here? This is straight out of Lenin himself. Lenin's directly contradicting me. He's directly contradicting me. Apparently, that's what's going on. I mean, why else would Lenin dedicate an entire sentence to stating definitively that Rome was imperialist? Because that was the point of this sentence, right? I think that was the point Lenin was trying to make with this sentence, wasn't it? What do you guys think? You think that... Just read this, guys. I want to probe your brain. What was the point Lenin was trying to say in this sentence? Do you guys know? Are you able to know? Do you know the context? No, that the context is that I'm wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Well, why don't we look at the work itself? It turns out that this one sentence, he just cited this one sentence, which was the opener to a paragraph. And the paragraph actually is going to tell us the point he's trying to make. Colonial policy and imperialism existed before the latest stage of capitalism. And even before capitalism, Rome, founded on slavery, pursued a colonial policy and practiced imperialism. What does Lenin in context mean by imperialism here? Is he talking about the system that he is then going to elucidate throughout this entire book? Or is he referring to some trans-historical essence that just exists across time? Well, it's a shame that Lenin's not alive anymore. Otherwise, we'd be able to ask him, right? So I guess it's settled? Oh, wait! Lenin himself clarifies the matter. We actually can look at this, like, one word later where he clarifies what he actually means. Right after he says this. But general disquisitions on imperialism, which ignore or put into the background the fundamental difference between socioeconomic formations, inevitably turn into the most vapid banality or bragging, like the comparison Greater Rome and Greater Britain. What Lenin is saying here is that you can't compare Rome with Britain because they rest on fundamentally different socioeconomic formations. You can point out the fact that on a superficial level, yeah, both are empires and both have a colonial policy, but they don't share the same essence. The reason why Rome, for example, is an expansionistic empire and has a colonial policy owes itself to an entirely different material premise. There's an entirely different historical and material reason for why. So essentially speaking, it is not appropriate to call the Roman Empire imperialist once you acknowledge what Lenin means by imperialism in this book. Now, the reason why Lenin says that Rome is imperialistic is because he's acknowledging the common sense understanding people had of imperialism at the time, that they were vaguely throwing around that, yeah, Rome had a colonial policy, it was expansionistic, it was an empire, it conquered territories. Yeah, that's what Lenin's saying. Yeah, I'll give it to you, that's true. But you can't say that this is the same in essence as the imperialism that exists today. It's not specific enough, right? Just because you're expansionistic and you have a colonial policy and you're an empire doesn't mean we're referring to the same thing when he uses the word imperialism as the highest stage of capitalism, right? And then look what Lenin said. Even the capitalist colonial policy of previous stages of capitalism is essentially different from the colonial policy of finance capital, implying that both modern imperialism and colonial policy is essentially different. So let me break down what essentially different means in the context of using words. If a word has an essentially different referent, if the referent is not in essence the same, once it has been clarified, it is no longer appropriate to use that word. It may be appropriate according to a certain context, but in the context of the debate I was engaged in, where someone was trying to say that compare modern imperialism to, Genghis Khan and the Romans, it's not appropriate to say that. Lenin himself made it very clear that it's not appropriate to compare them. So if you're a dipshit who just watches this video, it's gonna seem like, this is the angle Bad Empanada is going for in this little clip. The angle that he's going for is basically like, dude, even Lenin understood that, yeah, Rome was imperialist, dude. Imperialism's an eternal, platonic ideal. It only has a fixed essence. Every single concept that has any relevance in the modern day has always existed. Nothing new under the sun. The only difference is that things change and evolve, but qualitatively they stay the same. And as we're going to see in the comments, this is actually Bad Empanada's argument. His argument is basically that all Lenin was saying was that imperialism changed, but that in essence it's the same, it's just evolved. Notice in a previous video or a previous clip, Bad Empanada has said that Hegel is completely meaningless mumbo jumbo. Well, the reason it makes sense that he would say that is because you really do have to understand Hegelian dialectics to understand the possibility that there are qualitative changes. There can be qualitative changes historically. History is not just the evolution of the same essence. The essence itself undergoes qualitative transformations that make it essentially a different thing. Not the quantitative evolution of the same thing, but an essentially different thing. Qualitatively a different thing. The imperialism of ancient Rome, which carried on a policy of seizure and conquest, by force of arms subduing to its hegemony a great many countries of Europe, Asia, and Africa, must not be confused with modern imperialism. Just as, for instance, usury capital, which existed before capitalism, must not be confused with usury bank capital in the epoch of imperialism. The difference between imperialism of ancient Rome and modern imperialism consists in the difference of production basis. Then it was a small peasant and artisan production and commercial capital. Now it is an enormous machine production and monopoly capital. This example, among others, shows how incorrect it is to understand it by terms of modern imperialism, only a policy. Keep this in mind specifically, right? It's incorrect to understand by the term modern imperialism a policy. Now, what does Bad Empanada have to say about that? We're gonna see. And not a whole system of capitalist economy. The former point of view makes it impossible to understand the distinction between the imperialism of ancient Rome and modern imperialism. Now, at this point, the debate would just be over. He's just wrong. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyone who watched this clip and thought this was like a got you, and somehow like this clip made a profound point, you are literally just exposed yourself as a stupid person. If you thought that this made me look stupid, you just exposed yourself as a midwit. This comment section is full of midwits who just love having this idea that, oh, no, the streamers don't know anything. Haas doesn't know anything. He's just grifting. Like, you're a fucking dumbass, dude. You literally don't. You are worse than just an average dumb viewer, okay? You're someone who's pretending to be something they're not. You're pretending to be a smart intellectual, and you're a fucking dumbass. So this guy, he's kind of good faith, and he goes, I suspect what infrared meant was that Rome was not subject to the same productive relations. This is a good own, but it doesn't really engage with the substance of the debate. I didn't know, I didn't watch it. Wow, this is like the only good faith guy in this entire fucking comment section. No, he clearly doesn't, because if you actually read the work in question, he would say that Lenin acknowledges that ancient empires absolutely were imperialist. But that doesn't actually reflect what Lenin said. We go here, dude. He doesn't say that they were absolutely imperialist by any metric or qualification whatsoever. He said they practiced imperialism, or he called them imperialistic, but that was immediately followed by a but. So it's anything but absolute. And then in the footnotes, he literally goes to clarify that you're dealing with an essentially different thing. Like, the words here are referring to essentially different things. Like, all Lenin means by the imperialism of ancient Rome is the policy of seizure and context. If you don't even, in good faith, no one could come at this on Bitter Lpanada's fucking side. You just couldn't agree with him in good faith when it comes to this. This doesn't actually say that Lenin disagreed with me. He's just trying to dig up something that would make me look bad. Qualitatively speaking, I am 100% in agreement with Lenin here, right? But he digs up an inconvenient, detail that makes it seem like there's some huge difference that I'm departing from Lenin from, when if you actually put that in context, I'm saying the same thing Lenin is saying. That the character of imperialism has evolved as systems of production have evolved, the world has become more connected, and finance capitalism has developed changes. Nothing about this statement being idiotic. It's like saying racism is different today than from 200 years ago because its character has changed and therefore no one back then was racist. Two things, actually. There's a whole lot of stupidity in this fucking paragraph alone that we're going to dissect and destroy. So first, just unambiguously anti-Marxist statement. The Marxist view is not the evolution of a single quality or the single form. The Marxist view is a contradiction between content and form that leads to qualitative changes historically. It's not just the evolution of the same fixed essence. The essence itself qualitatively changes, which means that the character of imperialism hasn't evolved as systems of production have evolved. Imperialism, as it existed in the Roman Empire, was annihilated according to the mode of production being annihilated. When the actual material premises of the Roman Empire changed, the Roman Empire quite literally collapsed. Its imperialism may impart some significance as an ideal concept in your head, but that doesn't mean that the ideal concept has some imminent fixed essence that is trans-historical and merely evolving across history. The only thing you can point out is that on the surface, yes, the British Empire was an empire, and the Roman Empire was an empire. And then surface level, both of them were kind of expansionistic and, seizing other land and seizing other territories. But in terms of the essential reasons behind those, it's different. The reason the Roman Empire was imperialist, in Lenin's sense of the word, wasn't because it was imperialist. It was because of its specific mode of production. Imperialism, as some kind of trans-historical concept, doesn't explain the reason why that on the surface you're seeing this when it comes to the Roman Empire. This guy's basically no different than people who are just trying to say, here's my challenge to Bitter Lpanada. Why couldn't you just say that capitalism has always existed? Sure, capitalism has developed and it's evolved, but it's existed since the dawn of time. Wouldn't that be accurate? After all, the accumulation of capital and commodities has always existed. Capital, in a sense, has always existed. The increase of your coffers through the sale of commodities has always existed. That's always been a thing. You know what's funny? So let's ask the question, right? Let me ask Bad Empanada. Hey, Bad Empanada, did the proletariat always exist? Did the proletariat always exist? And he would probably say no. The proletariat didn't always exist. The proletariat as a class arose with the arrival of the capitalist mode of production, right? In the class of wage laborers and the socialization of labor and the generalized commodity production and the emergence of abstract labor. That's what gives rise to the proletariat, right? Well, let's see what Marx has to say. People forget the saying, the Roman proletariat lived at the expense of society, while modern society lives at the expense of the proletariat. So according to Bitter Lpanada's bankrupt anti-Marxist stupid fucking logic, the proletariat has always existed. At least has existed as old as ancient Rome. Just because the words are in common. If we use the word proletariat to describe something today, it couldn't possibly be the case that we're referring to something different in the times of ancient Rome. Well, we're using the same word, just like Lenin is using the word imperialism. Just like Lenin, Marx is addressing the common use of the word proletariat, which was a historical reference to the ancient Roman proletariat. And while acknowledging the uses of those words in terms of what they're trying to say, that yes, there was empires who expanded and stuff, what I'm trying to refer to is different. So my word, imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, it's literally the title of the fucking book, is referring to something different. This is the one-to-one comparison and analogy. Now, will Bitter Lpanada really come here and say that Marx is referring to the fact that the proletariat has absolutely preceded capitalism? Finally, it's like saying that racism is different today from 200 years ago because its character has changed and therefore no one back then was racist. No, it would be like saying that racism is different today from 1,000 or 2,000 years ago because it's referring to something qualitatively different. Yes, racism is a modern phenomenon. Racism existed 200 years ago because modernity existed 200 years ago. The same modern racism existed 200 years ago because 200 years ago we were still living in the modern era. Unless you don't know what modernity means, racism is something unique that emerged in the modern sense of the word, like in terms of racism as this strict kind of essentialization of people based on their physical characteristics from a natural scientific point of view, that is something that's very recent. No, racism, for example, in the modern sense, I would argue didn't exist in the times of ancient Rome. I would 100% argue that. It's ridiculous. The USA only turned imperialist after World War II is a British conspiracy. Can Bitter Lpanada, I literally destroyed him last night about this whole topic. I actually clarified that, yeah, America was obviously imperialist before World War II. Can he actually provide evidence that I said it wasn't? All I said was that the American Empire, which is something specific we're referring to, which is American unipolar hegemony, is something that emerged after World War II. American imperialism in the preceding decades was qualitatively something different than the Bretton Woods American-led order after World War II, and moreover the era of American imperialism in the sense of the Reagan, Clinton, Bush eras of kind of becoming the world police. You know, that is something that arose after World War II. Absolutely. The U.S. before World War II was just another imperialist power. Now, after World War II, it kind of started to seize the responsibility of becoming like the preeminent global power of the global order, right? It's in about Lenin. Yeah, too bad I never actually contradicted Lenin ever. Unless you want to get into like semantics and be like, oh, Hans, but you said the U.S. only became an empire, and by definition, imperialism. No, because what I'm referring to by the American Empire is the Bretton Woods. It's what most people refer to when they say the American Empire. They're not referring to like when America was imperialist in the early 20th century. Why are these people so stupid? Like even basic logic in history destroys these people. Yeah, I know, but like judging by the comments of this video and also all the likes and shit, I really feel like they need to be taught a lesson. And it really needs to be hammered in that these are stupid fucking people, right? But imperialism now is different, changes nothing. It's not just different, you fucking idiot. It is essentially and fundamentally different. So essentially and fundamentally different that it is not appropriate after the publication of Lenin's book to call the Roman Empire imperialist. Especially not when I'm in a debate arguing with someone who's trying to make comparisons between the Mongols and the Roman Empire with modern imperialism, when Lenin himself says that these comparisons rest on vapid banalities and generalizations. For Lenin, the Roman Empire was imperialist. But the only times Lenin ever refers to the Roman Empire being imperialist is precisely when he's contrasting the modern form of imperialism. It's almost like Lenin isn't actually saying the Roman Empire is imperialist. He's just acknowledging what many other people mean by the Roman Empire being imperialist, that it seizes foreign territories and that it expands or whatever, and that all he's trying to do is distinguish his use of the word, referring to an entirely new and qualitatively different system from that one. It's almost like it's not for Lenin that the Roman Empire is imperialist. It's for the people in Lenin's time that he's trying to respond to and distinguish himself from that it's imperialist. Now, if Lenin, and I can't believe I have to explain this, if Lenin in context was like, you know, the Roman Empire wasn't imperialist, he would effectively in context be saying that the Roman Empire wasn't an empire that seized territories and expanded and had colonies. Because that's what imperialism, as most people at that time thought of the word, it was just this vague general thing. If Lenin was like saying, oh, the Roman Empire wasn't imperialist, that would assume that he had already clarified the system of modern imperialism that's the highest stage of capitalism. But he didn't do that already because he was doing it in the book itself. That's what the fucking book is for. If the Roman Empire existed today, it would, guys, it's over. It's fucking over. It's fucking over. If the Roman Empire existed today, it would use the same means as other empires, which is why Lenin acknowledged it as such. That's not why Lenin fucking acknowledged it as such. Read this, you fucking dumbass. Lenin only acknowledged the claim that imperialism could be, ancient Rome was imperialist because it carried on a policy of seizure and conquest. This is what he was acknowledging. Not that this imperialism is qualitatively the same as this imperialism, but that he was acknowledging, yes, there was seizure and conquest, but despite that, he's talking about an entirely different fucking thing. Only superficially can they be compared. Only superficially are they comparable, not essentially. You stupid fuck. You literal stupid fuck. You literal fucking brainlet. Stupid pseudo-intellectual fuck literally said if the Roman Empire existed today, it would use the same means as other empires. This actually pisses me off now, that this fucking guy is being treated like a fucking Marxist that people are following and actually believe anything they say. You dumb fuck. You have literally just tarnished your entire fucking level of credibility on the fucking internet. You literally said if the Roman Empire existed today, it would use the same means as other empires. What? The Roman Empire rested upon an entirely different mode of production. Insofar as that mode of production, which are its material premises, change, the Roman Empire fucking doesn't exist. That's why it doesn't exist anymore. If the fucking fundamental premises of a policy transform, the polity collapses and ceases to exist. The Roman Empire is not a fucking trans-historical entity that just exists across every fucking mode of production. It's called the contradiction between the base and the superstructure and the forces of production and the relations of production. You stupid fuck! The fucking Roman Empire, if it existed today, would not employ the same means because qualitatively it would have it wouldn't even exist anymore. It couldn't exist today. If it existed today, its territories would just immediately be seized by everyone else because it's literally a primitive backwater mode of production that's from 2,000 years ago. So yeah, the advanced militaries and modern weaponry and methods of production would just completely annihilate it. Or it would just fucking collapse because they wouldn't be able to fucking survive the shock of being introduced to entirely different modes of production, which would inevitably give rise to a revolution in the forces of production, which would destroy the fucking foundation of the Roman Empire. You stupid fuck, bitter bitch Lpanada, you dumb fuck. You're literally the dumbest fuck on the internet.